Okay, good. Now, Yantif. Here we are. We're gonna finish tomorrow's daf. Actually, tonight is Shuas, of course, and we're on Kuf Dalit Amid Beis. Kuf Dalit Amid Beis. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines from the bottom. Amri Nardoi. So let me take you back in time before we see it inside to Perik Ezun Neshech and describing an iska. What literally a business? What was the traditional business? What would they do? How would that work? We said the following: an investor, he would go ahead and he would give to a person, a merchant, he would give him schayra to do business with. Now, the merchant would have, if he was not chayiv b'achrayis, that would be classic ribis in mekach memka. In other words, I'm giving you this, and in lieu of waiting to get my money back, right, you're gonna get paid, right? So that would be ribis. So what will you do? They went ahead and they made half of it a milva and half of it pikadon. So when he's doing business he's getting money on his part, the halva part, and the part that he's working for the investor, the Baal Pikadon part, goes to the investor. The problem is that he's working, the investor's making money, this guy's working for him. Why is he working for him? Because he gave him a loan, right? He gave him a loan. He didn't have anything. He gave him this schora, and he said half of it is a loan. If he's getting now paid back, what? The profits on half Pikadon part, in lieu of giving him a loan. So what they said that the merchant would take more than the investor. So in the part that in the profits, they would share 2/3 to a third. 2/3 to a third. That would then, therefore, since he's paying him to work for him, then it's not a ribis problem. Okay? So the worker is getting 2/3, the investor is getting a third. Half of the schayra he gave is for the Baal Pikadon, the investor, and half is for the halva. That's the classic iska. Says the Gemara, Amri Nardoi, Hi iska, palga milva, upalva Pikadon. Half of it is a milva that he's responsible for, and half of it's a Pikadon. It's good for both. It's good for the malva, that he doesn't have to accrue the whole loss if something happens to it. It's good for the lover as well, that he's getting something, right, and for nothing, and he's got to work, but he's getting something. Hashdid amin and palga milva, I'd say the following: since half it is a milva, so here you are. I go ahead, I give Kenny Miller $1,000 worth of merchandise. Half 500 is mine, 500 is Kenny Miller. Kenny can go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to take the 500 he lent me and I'll use it for personal expenses. After all, he lent it to me. What's wrong with that? Guys are here. Again, the question is that 500 that I gave Kenny as a halva his to do whatever he wants with it, or it's limited to what? Using it for business purposes? And the answer is obviously is the latter. Says the Gemara, Amra, I could say to Kenny, iska. That's why it's called a business. The Amalei, ki avina lacha, when I gave Kenny the money, the schayr, the merchandise, li aski bay. I gave it to him to be Isaac with it, to make a profit, to go sell it, but not to go ahead and use it literally to drink beer, but meaning for his own usage. So that's one din. A second din. Amarav Idi Baravin the mace chas v'shalom, if the person the loiva dies, nasim etatl eitzabanov, and he can't collect it, In other words, he can't collect it. Let's say I gave the iska to someone named Smith, Harry Smith, and Harry kicks the bucket. Usually, as we said yesterday, the metaltlin of a yisaimim are not mishubit to be paid. You can't collect it. So here you have a halva. You would think you can't collect it from Harry Smith. On that, we're told no. Rav Amar lahachi karli iska de meis lo yasem metaltalin leis banov. It's called an iska. It doesn't become metaltalin to the banov. So the Gemara here, interesting enough, even though we described iska at great length in Perek Ezer Neshech, we first meet iska now. Half a mil, they have to be caught. It doesn't say that in Ezer Neshech. This is the source, the Nandoi over here, and two dinim. It's not your classic loan. It's not your classic loan. It's not a loan that the loiva can do anything he wants with it, and it's not a classic loan that remains by what the yisoimim in case of what of death. It's an iska for purposes of what of business. Use it for that sole purpose, and if that sole purpose isn't there, you get it on return. You collect it. That makes total sense. The Gemara now is going to bring in two cases, a little minor myth, and here it is. Let's do it. Let's do it outside, and then we'll do it inside. Okay? We can see this. You can see it says Rabbi Eliezer Stern at the top. You can see that one, guys. There's two things over here. Can you see this one?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. So now we have a milva saying a third of the profits and a loiva 2/3 of the profits. Again, the loiva is getting more because he's doing business on the milva's part, and we don't want it to be ribis, correct? So now it's one business transaction, but there's two shtaris. In other words, you say I'm sending Kenny out for business purposes, right? One iska, but it's two separate bundles. So I give him $100, two bundles. The first bundle A is 50, the second bundle B is 50. Good. The first bundle, we take a loss. We lose 5 dinarim. Good, the loss is 5. In the second one, we make a profit of 15 dinarim. So the total iska, remember, it's two bundles, but it's one iska. The total iska is what? If I'm entitled to a third of the profits is a 10, I'm going to get 3 1/3. I'm going to get 3 1/3 of the profits. That's what, if it's one iska and two shtaris. What about if it's one iska and one shtar? So in other words, this is not, it's one bundle. It's one bundle. 50 is a loss. 50 is a gain. It's going to be 15 minus 5 is 10. It's 50 minus 5 is 10, right? A third. Now, the loss is 5, but it's only 2.5 because we both take part of the loss, correct? We're both taking part of the loss, guys. So that's 2.5. Of the gain of 15, I'm entitled to a third of it. A third of 15 is 5. So in total, I'm going to get what? 7.5, right? That's 7.5. A third of 7.5 is 2.5. A third of 7.5, what? Is 2.5. So if this is the first case, if it's one shtar, then I'm going to get a 3 1/3. If separate, meaning it's two separate shtaris, this is the case of the iska. The two over here, I'm going to get only a profit of 2.5. So again, if it's one shtar, one iska, and I put it together, not separate shtaris, we're going to combine the two. Over here, this is 10. In total, it's 10, 3 1/3. Over here, see over here, this 5. I didn't make it 2.5 because this was one iska, so we both took the loss. If over here, if it's a separate, then we have to divide the loss. So that's why this comes 2.5. That's part of the iska, the whole thing. I'm dividing the loss between both of us. If over here it's a separate thing, then I'm going to take 2.5. So now the loss is over here is 2.5. The gain is 15. The third of 15 is 5. 5 and 2 is 7.5. Now the total third of 7.5 is 2.5. So 3 1/3, 2.5. Okay. Now that's in the case of what? Of the loss goes to the malva. There's a case where the loss goes to the loiva. If it's two iska and one shtara, so the first case was one iska and two shtaras. Here it's two iskas and one shtar. Then the loss is going to be to the loiva. How do you see that? Here's two separate iskas. Sunday the iska was for 100. Monday the iska was for 100. The loss over here was 5. So you're going to take 2.5. You, the loiva, get 2.5. The gain was 15. And it's separate days, guys. So it's 2/3 of 15 is 10. Total is 7.5. However, if it's going to be together, it's going to be what? In one shtar, instead of separate stars in one shtar, then it's going to be what? This is going to be 15.5. The 2.5 goes away because it's part of one loss. 15.5 is 10. 2/3 of 10 is 6 and 2/3. So if it's 2 iska, 1 star, the loss is going to be to the loiva 6 and 2/3. If it's 1 star, if it's 1 iska, then it's going to be a gain of 7.5 to the loiva. Okay, this is really the opposite, guys, of this case over here, where it was 3 1/3 is 6 and 2/3, and 7.5 and 2.5. Okay. Okay, let's see it inside. You got the idea.
Could you send that chart so I could print it for tonight?
Okay, no problem.
Thank
just
you.
remind me of the share. Remind me of the share. Okay. Amarava, chad iska b'trei shtari. If it's 1 iska and 2 shtaros, psida de milva. Then it's going to be a loss for the milva. Trei iska b'chad shtari psida de loiva. Okay, and we did the math. Amarava, hayman the kibul iska min chavre. A person went ahead and he accepted an iska from his friend who passed. He lost the money. He lost part of it, not all of it. And at this point in time, he doesn't say anything to his investor. And what happens? He then goes ahead, he works very hard, and he gets back the loss, and he never told the investor about the loss. It says, now he can't come to the investor and say to him, you should go ahead and bear some of that initial loss that I had. Because the investor could say to him, that's why you worked very hard to go ahead and make sure that you recoup the loss. It's going to be bad for your reputation. People are going to think that you lose an iska. So don't say that I should pay you for that. It's for your advantage that you went ahead and recouped that. Hani betray of the iska bahadiyadadi. Now, this is speaking where there's one investor, and now you have two people making what? In other words, the investor has two shutfin, 2 loivin. So these 2 guys, it's like I take Kenny and Heshi, and I go ahead, Kenny and Heshi, you're going to go out and do business together. For Ravach, and they both did well. For Amalei Chad, so Kenny says to Benji, let's go ahead and let's divide what's coming to us. Let's divide it. So Amalei Idach, and Heshi would say, Narvach Tfei, it's better what? Let's go ahead and invest it to make more money. Dina hu de ma'akiv. The halacha is that Heshi can be ma'akiv Kenny. And now the Gemara explains why. If Kenny would say, give me half of the profits, the revach, Amalei, then Heshi could say to him, Rafko lekarne mishtabit. The revach is mishubit to the keren. On this, let's see Rashi, guys. I Amalei niflag Ravcha hashna mefarish. For my timer is laid in the akev. Why Heshi can be ma'akev Kenny? If Kenny says, "Hi palga Ravcha v'keren nitfis," we'll just divide the profits, keep the keren intact. Adayin laviach boy adazman matzi amalei idach Ravcha lekarne mishtabit. Heshi can say to Kenny, "This profit that we made is meshubit to the keren." Why? Shemi b'schayra shenasa oid. Maybe we continue the iska, nifsid, we're going to take a loss. But kayim, and we need the profit there, to use, in order to go ahead and fill the keren. So in other words, even though we made money till now, there's no guarantee we'll continue to make money. So again, this iska is for a period of time. And you want to go ahead, Kenny, and divide up before the time is up, guess what? Heshi can stop you, because we need this money in escrow in a way, right? In escrow to cover any future loss to go ahead and make more profit. So that's what he can tell him. The Yamalei, Havli Palga Rapso Palga Karna, Kenny says, I'll tell you what, give me half of the revach, of the profits, along with half of the keren, and you don't have to worry. Amalei, Iska Lahade Mishubid. Again, the Iska is for each other. The Amalei Niflik Ravcha Niflik Karna. Let's divide everything. The Matilap Seda the Rina Bahadach. And Kenny says, if there's a loss, I'll take along with you. Amalei. So Heshi can tell him, Loi, Masla the Betrayod, even if there's nothing to worry about, that Heshi has nothing to worry about, he can tell Kenny, guess what? The Masla of 2 people is better than the mazel of one person. And therefore, he can stop him in any situation to go ahead and stop again, this is up till the period of time that the deal is on for. So again, the case of Iska, what an Iska is, the Taina, an Iska is not your classic loan on the loiva part. After all, the loiva cannot do whatever he wants with it. It's meshubah to the Iska. The loiva, if he dies, it's not. It doesn't stay by the Yisaimim. It's meshubed. If again, depending on the situation, whether it's two shtaris and one iska, or vice versa, there's a loss to the malva, loss to the loiva, and we did the math, and you can see it in front of you. I'm not going to go through it. And then finally, if he wants to go ahead and break it up, the iska, the one again, it's one balabas, one investor, and two people, and one of the two people wants to go ahead and break it up. The other one can stop him with certain legal claims that it's better to stay together. Even if it's not a monetary loss, it's better to stay together because we have more muscle together. It's a monetary loss, meaning maybe there'll be a monetary loss in the keren, so on the rest of the money. So we need the keren to go ahead and take its place. So there's a koyach in all these things. Says the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah. Hamekabel sada mechaveroi leiratzul inachish. He goes ahead. He's mekabel a sada from a field, and he doesn't want to work. So Amalei, and he says to him, "My ichbas lecha, what do you care? I'm going to give you what you want." So yesterday's classic Rashi, guys, what did Rashi say? The Mishnayos from here to the end of the Perek is sometimes by Chakiris and sometimes by Arisas. So what's Rashi going to tell you here? It's Dafka by Chakiris. In other words, if it's Arisas, it goes a percentage of the field. If it's Chakiris, you have a guarantee. So Rashi says over here, clearly, right, this is only by Chakiris, ain't Shaiman Lai. Why? You're going to leave it, and you're going to leave me a field full of weeds. So good in terms of the rental that we had, and you're going to pay me, that's one thing. But for futures, you ruined my field. And therefore, you can't just go ahead and not weed the field. I just want to see that. Rashi, again, I love what Rashi did over here. Says Rashi, ain't Shaimim Loi, v'halesa, right before it gets wide, 4 lines up. V'halesa ela b'chachmenusa, it's only by what? By chakiras. The ibi kablanusa by arisos, pshita. It's pashit, he can't go ahead and say, I'm not going to work the field. Imatza amalei mayach baslav. How can he possibly say, what do you care? Of course he cares. He gets a percentage of the crop. So Rashi does the job over here and tells us, okay, says the Gemara. The Amalei, if he tells him the following, now what are you worried about? I should weed beforehand, and that's going to make things better, right? Because the crop will be better. So he'll tell, listen, and you worry about the future? Don't worry about the future. You know why? After I go ahead and harvest, I'm going to go ahead and plow. And that plow is going to go ahead and take care of future weeds. So Amalei, the Balabas can say to him, I want good wheat. And if you're not going to go ahead and weed beforehand, it's going to them away from the quality of the wheat. The Amalei, and if the Chayker tells him, Zavina lach chita mishuka, I'll buy good wheat from you, what are you worried about? Amalei, the Balabas can tell him, I don't want wheat from the shuk. I want wheat that says my name on it. The Amalei, and if the Choyke tells him, Minach shinalach shir minasich, I'll go ahead. Let's say the field, you're going to get 50% of the field. So I'll weed your 50%, and mine I won't. In other words, right? I'm not going to do the whole field. I'll do yours, so you don't have to worry about what? A, inferior wheat, and B, you don't have to worry about it not being your wheat. So Amalei, so the Balabas could tell him, menasvat shtei shemra la'roi. You're going to give my land a bad name, so therefore you have to weed the whole field. But Fred Gemara, I don't know, you're giving a bunch of reasons. That's not what it says in the Mishnah. Why does it say in the Mishnah? Right? It's going to grow weeds. So Vatanan Bifnei Shemalis Lefanai Asavim, you're giving all these kashbainis over here. And the Mishnah gives one reason. It doesn't give a bunch of reasons. It gives one reason. You're giving other reasons. It's not my wheat. It's weak wheat. People are going to talk. I mean, that's not what it says. It says because it's going to bring what Malas Asavim. Ella mishum the amalei, because the balabas can say to the farmer, Bisra de nafal nafal. If you have a seed from weeds, once it's there, you know what's going to happen? It's going to make new weeds. And even if you go ahead and plow it afterwards, it's going to make new weeds because the wind's going to go ahead and blow it around. We'll see weeds. Nothing grows like a weed. So therefore, you can tell them weed beforehand because guess what? It's just going to go ahead no matter what you do. What are you going to tell me? You're going to plow afterwards? That doesn't help me because once you start plowing, this starts spreading the weeds, and even the ones that are gone now, next year it's going to go ahead and increase. So therefore, you can't tell it. Next Mishnah. Now we have to see if this is speaking about chakiris or arisus. And it didn't do the job. In other words, you got a crop, but it didn't work out. Right? The crop, it grew, but it wasn't Rashi says that he wants to stop. In other words, the handwriting's on the wall. If things aren't going well, he wants to stop. He doesn't want to, he wants to stop. So it doesn't go ahead and produce what it should. If there's enough in the field to make a kri, which is a pile, then the oris is chayiv to go ahead and continue. Now, guys, is this speaking about chakiris or arisos? Clearly, it must be speaking about arisos, correct? Or else, how could he possibly say, I'm going to stop? It doesn't make a difference if you have to provide it, right? Amar Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda, my kitzur b'kri. What kind of amount you're limiting with a kri? Meaning, in elim yeshba kidei nefila. Let's say you have a large field. Maybe you can make a kri, but the rest of the field is going to be so hard to work. You have a small field, you can make a kri. The rest of the field is little to work. In other words, how can you give a set amount of a kri for different dimensions of the field? It doesn't make any sense. Ella, what's Rabbi Yehuda's method of figuring out whether he has to continue or not? Elam yeshba k'dei nefila. If there's nefila means to throw, it means to plant. If he has enough in the field to plant, then he has to continue doing it. The Gemara is going to explain this. What does it mean it has enough kedei to plant? If you look at Rashi, Elam Mishum the Amalei Elam Yeshba kedei nefila sheyachol lachzer, he can go return ulezora l'shana haba mitfu shana zu. In other words, he has enough grown from this field to plant next year. That's the share, guys. If he has enough from this field to plant for next year, and the field is zera shemafazon lobim palisyad, it's the seed that you go ahead and throw around with your hand. Now, obviously, fellas, this has to be speaking what? This has to be speaking bit arisos. If you look at Rashi, Dibra Masel Chayiv L'Tapelba. What does Rashi say? Chayiv L'Tapelba. Bal Karchay, against his will. He has to do it. Bal Lesa Elib Kabanusa. This can only be speaking by arisos. The Ibechachbanusa, because if it's speaking by Chakiris, Maloi Lebala Sodim Yachdalai. Safe, like, why does he care what he's doing at the end of the field, right? As long as what? Again, this field's not producing. So he wants him to continue working. He doesn't care if he continues working because he has a set amount anyway. So obviously, when it says that we can force him to work, it must be speaking about arisus. And again, Rashi, as I'm pointing out as we go along, keeping his word and saying, I'll point out to you as we go along, if it's speaking about chakiris or speaking about arisus. Okay, that's the point of Rashi. Okay. Tan Rabbanan. Hamakabel soda mechaveroi v'lo yasta. It's not doing the job. It's not growing. Im yesh bo kedei lahamer kri. If there's enough to go ahead and make a kri, chayv l'tapabot, he has to continue working the field. Shekach koisevla, because what did the sharecropper write? Ani oikim v'onir v'ezra v'echtzay. I'll stand up. V'onir, I'll go ahead, I'll plow. Ezra, I'll plant. The echtside, and I'll harvest. The amir, I'll go ahead and bring the sheaves in. The others, and I'll thresh. The idri, and I'll winnow. Winnow is throwing it up. This is important. Throwing it up to the wind in a rachas. It's a type of zayreya, right? You throw it up there. The ukim karyo kadamach, and I'll go ahead and I'll stand up a kri in front of you. V'tesei ant, and you'll come. V'titul palgal, you'll take half. Because my work and my expenses, I'll take the other half. That's what he writes. So Memela, if he wrote that out, the halacha is if there's produces a kri, if you can produce that kri, then the next half you have to be toifel with, because that's what he wrote out. That was the contract of Arisos. The kamakadei lahamid bakri. What's the share of going ahead and a kri? Kri is very ambiguous, guys, right? What's the share of a kri? So Rabbi Yosef Rechanina, kadei shetamid boy harachas. You take the shovel that you would go ahead and throw up in the wind, and you stick it in. And as we're going to see, it's covered on all sides. So if the kri is strong enough to hold up the winnowing shovel when stuck in, that's enough to make the oris continue to finish the job. If it's stuck in there and it stands up. It's standing up, but you can see it coming out of the sides. No, it's not totally covered. It's not totally covered. That's the way Rashi learns. It's not totally covered. Interesting Taisus, guys. Let's see the Taisus. Rach goris mehagisa or mehagisa pirish. K'dei lahamid sadha rachav shalamata. That you can go. You have enough. It covers the wide shovel part below. Sha'az ain't tzarich tfua kol kach. Then you don't need so much on top. Shebedava muet oimed. In other words, if it's thick on the bottom, it's going to hold the fat part in place, and you don't need so much on top. The ena neufel, or the other way around. Shalmaila, she'ena rochav, in the top it's not, the shovel's not so wide. Shaz tzarich tfua harbe, then you're going to need a lot of tfua, right, to hold it, because it's not so wide. And then we're going to call she'en kana shaloi roya pechama, anything we're going to see that you can't see it. In other words, we care about the shovel part. So Rashi seems to see guys like this. You stick it in, but you can see it on two sides. Taisa seems to be learning, you stick it in, that even the top is, as long as the bottom part is like this, you're going to be okay. But the top part, not. Says the Gemara, then you'll need more. So now Fred the Gemara Kasha. So that's your Shaila. Toshma, let's see, push to the Shaila. Amra Bavahu. If the koinis, that's the base kibble, guys, the scooper part, it doesn't see the face of sun, then you chayv to tapelba. So according to the shaila, since the other sides would protrude, right, then you would not have to be metapelba. That's not enough. If everything is covered up and it stands up, then you'd be mechayiv to be metapel the rest of the field. Itmar. Levi Yama Shalish side. And now we're going to give it we're going to qualify it. Well, how much is a heap? We're not going to give it the shovel test. We're going to give it an amount. Levi Yama Shalish Sayin, 3 Sayin. The Bei Rabbi Yanai Amra Sasayim. The house of Rabbi Yanai said 2 Sa. 2 Sa. Right? And Amr Shlakish, Shasayim Sha'amru, the Sasayim that we said is Chutz Minait Sa. That it means that aside after the expenses of the sharecropper, right? You had Sasayim, that amount, then that's the amount. Tan Hasam. We learned over there. Pritze Zaysim va'anavim. Pritze Zaysim and grapes, these are unripened. They're not going to ripen. They're unripened. Beis Shammai mitamin. The Beis Shammai says, okay, Beis Shammai says that they're tamei, even though they're not an oichel, because they are unripened. Nonetheless, Beis Shammai says they're tamei. Beis Hillel mitaharoyin. Beis Hillel says it's tar. Now, what in the price of tea in China is this doing here, guys? Like what's this doing over here, right? So the answer is, if you take a look, that Rabbi Yanai is the one who gave the share. Rabbi Yanai is the one that gave the share. The Bei Rabbi Yanai on Sasayim. Now we're going to go through Shas, different places where Rabbi Yanai gave a share. And that's, so total digression. I'm going to go through places, and the commonality is Rabbi Yanai giving a share. So Rabbi Yanai gave the share by Yosef Sasayim, that's the heap. And over here we have these Pritze Zaysim, whether they're tummy or not. And okay, the svara of that they shouldn't be tummy is it's not an eichel because you can eat it. The svara that it should be tummy, it's a grape. It's a zayas. My pritze zeisim, mana pritze zeisim, Rav Huna, rishe zeisim. These are rishoyim zeisim. These are evil zeisim. Well, we'll see why they're evil, because they'll never ripen. Rav Yosef, they bring a pasuk. My crow, what does it say? Uvnei pritze amcha yinasu, and the sons of the wicked people, yinasu lahamid chazim b'nichshad. They're going to try to lift up a vision, and they're going to fall down. So what do you see? That pritze means what? Wicked. But Nachma Yitz Amamehacha, the Hoylid ben Paritz Shofar Dam, and he had a son who was a wicked, and he was a murderer. So you see that Paritz means wicked. In this case, wicked means it doesn't ripen. The Kama Pritze Zeitzim, right? How at some point in time these Zeitzim will ripen, and how at which point in time do we no longer call them Pritze Zeitzim, that they'll have a Shem Oichel? Rabbi Elazar ben Padas says, Arbas Kavim L'Koira. When one core, right, you'll be able to get 4 kav of oil. In other words, you're going to go ahead. I said core. I didn't mean that. Arbos kavim lekoira. Koira means the beam. So you're going to put X amount in, and now you have the beam on top of the olive press pushing down. If the beam on top of the olive press pushes down, and you're going to produce from that 4 kav, at this point in time, it's no longer considered pritze. It will be considered an eichel. The Rabbi Yanai Yamra, and this is why we're bringing it in. The Yeshiva Rabbi Yanai said, "Sasayim lekoira, not 4 kavim, but 2 sa." Outside, guys, there are 6 kavim to a sa. There are 6 kavim to a sa. So he's really speaking about 12 kavim. In other words, 3 times more. He said 4 kavim, and he said 12, right? So lechaira, so they're arguing. But Yanai says you need what? You need 3 times more, because it's 12 kavim versus 4 kavim. Like Pligi says the Gemara, they're not arguing. Haba asr dema'ayil koira the in where Rabbi Elazar is speaking, they put 1 kur of olives in, and the ba'asr dema'ayil tulasa kurin ilala. And in Rabbi Yanai's place, they would put 3 kurim in. So in other words, it's the same amount. It's just the amount. How you're getting 12 kav from 12 kav. You're getting from 3 kur, and according to Rabbi Elazar, you're getting what? You're getting 4 kav from 1. So it's the same amount. They're not arguing. Okay, that's the second case of what of Rabbi Yanai's share. And now we continue another case of Rabbi Yanai's share. Tana Rabbanon Amid Beis. Tana Rabbanon. Now, guys, there's a halacha of a zav. A zav is metama nishan. Even if he's leaning on you or causes you to lean, he's going to metama you. He's going to metama you even if he doesn't touch you. So with that in mind, a zav and a regular person, alu be'ilan, they go up a tree, shekoichira, and the tree is a weak tree, so it's bending. Ubesoicha shekoichira, or on a branch, right? Even if the tree is strong, it's a weak branch. Tameh. The Torah person is tameh, which Rashi says, because it's considered as if the zav is leaning upon him. Heki dami ilin shekoichira. What's the case of a weak tree? You're not able to go out and get 1/4 of a kav of wood. Is a weak tree, but again, you're getting what's the purpose? Amad debei Rabbi Yanai is you're getting the share of Rabbi Yanai. So if you can't cut out a 1/4 of a kav of wood, it's a weak tree. Hechi dami soicha shekoichera. What's the case of a soicha, a branch that if you and a zav are on it, you're going to be tamei? Reish Lakish kol shenech beis b'chezyona. That it's so thin that when you go ahead, guys, look, and you grab it with your hand, you can't see it. That's a weak branch. Again, all these digressions simply to bring in the shitas of what? Of Rabbi Yanai. Tanan Hasa. Hamahalech bebeis hapras. A person's walking in what? In a beis hapras. Walking, that beis hapras is an area that was plowed over. It's an area that was plowed over. There was a kever in the area. And as you're worried that you're going to come upon an etzem kisa'ira, or you're going to come upon the bone of a dead person, which is metamic fellas, bimaga, by touch, ubimasa, by carrying or moving. However, not ba'oil. Not ba'oil. Good? So we're going to get a shear from Rabbi Yanai in this digressed case. Tanan Hasam, a Mishnah in Oilos in the 18th parak. Hamahalik bebeis hapras. A person's walking in a beis hapras. Al gabi avonim shiyachol hasit. The stones, fellas, are what they're. You know what? You step on them, and they're not firm in place. They move back and forth. So you're walking, and you're either on ala adam, on a person that's weak, ala behema or behema shekoichen ra. So if you were on a strong person or a strong horse, and they would touch, fellas, this rock, and what we're worried about is next to the rock there's a bone, and you're moving the bone, we're worried you won't be tameh because you're not in connecting with it at all. But if the person or animal that's carrying you is weak, we'll consider you as if you move the rock. And if you move the rock and there's an etzem kasayra there, you're going to be tameh tumas meis. So now, how do we go ahead and determine if the person's considered weak or not? Very fascinating. Amresh Lakish, anyone is riding upon him, and his knees are knocking together. Guys, you hear? His knees knock together because if a person's strong, the legs are separate, they're able to hold the load, but they come together to go ahead and support each other, I guess, when the person's weak. It's a fascinating Gemara. Right? This is why you brought it in. On the animal is so weak that anyone who rides upon it goes to the bathroom. That shows it doesn't have the strength to hold in its waist. So therefore, this is the reason we brought it in, because of Rabbi Yanai. And now a final ruling of Rabbi Yanai. And I just found this Gemara, first of all, very geschmack. Second of all, just how Gemara can just go off into the tangential sunset, and it's just that's Gemara. Rabbi Yanai, the tefillin daled kavim. Allah is a tefillah, and Allah is a tefillin is for kavim. Now we have to explain, but that's the share. The tefillah maihi. What's the share of tefillah? That's for kavim. The Tanya. Now, when we speak about tefillah, guys, we're speaking about Shmona Esrei. Hanoisei masoy al kseifa. A person's carrying a load. V'giyaz man tefillah. Now it's the time to daven. Does he have to take it off now or not? Pachas midalad kavim. If the load is less than dalad kavim, mafshilin lachor mispalo. Just keep it on you. Put it to your back. Keep it on there, and you can daven. That's the share of 4 kavim. However, arba kavim. If it's a full 4 kavim, then maniach lagabi karka mispalo. You put it down on the ground and daven. So the share of Rabbi Yanai's 4 kavim le'inyan Shmona Esrei is le'inyan whether you have to take it off or not. Less than 4 kavim, you can keep on holding it. More than 4 kavim, you have to put it down. The tefillin maihi. What about the din of 4 kavim for tefillin? So the Tanya, hayanoisei masoy al roishay. A person's carrying a load on his head, utfillin b'roishay, and he has tefillin on his head. Im hoya tefillin roitzais. If the tefillin are getting crushed by the load, then it's asa. It's asa to carry it while wearing the tefillin. Then lav, but if it's not being crushed, then it's muta. Beis masa yamri. What kind of masa are we talking about? The masa shel arba kavim. It has to be what? It's 4 kavim. It's 4 kavim. That's the share of the masa. Hani Reb Chia, hamoitzi zevel al reishay. If a person's carrying zevel is a fertilizer on his head, utfillin b'reishay, harizela yisalkum mitzdadim. You can't go ahead and move your tefillin to the side. You got to take it off, guys. You have to take the tefillin off your head. It's not covered for tefillin if you're carrying that stuff on your head. Don't take the tefillin shel roish and tie them around your waist. If they should noig ben minig b'zayin, because that's a minig b'zayin. But what should you do? Take the tefillin shel roish and put it next to what? Remember, they wore tefillin the whole days. In those days, they wore tefillin the whole day. So take the tefillin and put it up by your arm. That's what you do with it. Mishum de Shila Amru, in the yeshiva of Shila, they said, Afilim et bacha shalahem. Even to wrap the tefillin, asal aniach al reish yesh tefillin. Even they had a place, I guess, a bag for the tefillin to be wrapped in at night. It would be asa to put the laniach al reish that tefillin. The kama, how much of a load is asa? Some Rabbiya, afilu river the pumbedisa, even 1/4 of the quarter of a liter of pumbedisa, even that small amount. Okay, so l'chayra, according to Shila, any burden that we were filling on, even a little bit, is l'chayra. So is he arguing or not, fellas? Is he arguing or not? So I share with you the following. We can see this. Can see something or not?
Now we see it.
Well, let's make it a little bigger. Now don't worry about it. I got it. There you go. There's 2 ways to explain these 3 shiurim. According to the Rif in the Rush, mashma she'ein behem machlokes, no machlokes at all. El shir masa arba kavim shel debei Rabbi Yanai, the shir of 4 kavim Rabbi Yanai, nemar legabe masa she'ein ba bezoyin kezevel. A regular masa that's not a masa of zevel. In that case, it's not a shiloh. That's no problem. That's the shir of 4 kavim. The shir shel Reb Chia nemar bezevel she'asa b'kol shu. The shir of Chia is even kol shu would be what? You're carrying something that's disgusting. The shir shneim nemar b'masa shramunach al roish. And this shir was speaking about where that you had the masa on first, lifnei sheniach by tefillin, before you put the tefillin on. Uba keis leniach by tefillin. So I want to put tefillin on. If I have a zevel on my head, I feel a kol shehu. If I have 4 kavim, right? Even if it's not a bezoyin, I can't put the tefillin on. The shir de Beis Shila, who said that small amount, the quarter of the liter of pampadisa, ama kishekodma hanachas atfillin la'anachas amasa. That's speaking where the tefillin preceded the masa. Sheshiuroi birava derava. So that's one way to learn pshat, guys. So in other words, no machlokes. We're getting 3 different shiurim. The shir of 4 kavim is speaking where it's not a dava bezoyin and what, and you're not wearing tefillin yet. The shir of kol shehu is speaking about where you're carrying something of a bezoyin and you're not wearing tefillin yet. The shir of the pumpadisa is where you're wearing the tefillin already. Then you're limited to that shir. That's one way to learn. Okay. Derech Shnia, the other way to learn is Divrei Shila Cholkin al Debei Rabbi Yanai. That was the Pashut way. He said 4 kavim, and he said the pumpadisa. Ushnei Maiskin ba'isa oifen shel masa. Okay, so those would be what? Those would be what? Two ways to learn. Those would be 2 ways to learn to make a nice pshara in the Gemara. Nice pshara in the Gemara. Okay.
Where was that from? What you had on the screen? Where was that from?
That's from the Vishinantam. The Sefer Vishinantam. Okay, let's make it to the Mishnah. Says the Gemara. Bekama, we did that. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, my kids will be kri. When it said my kids will be kri, okay. Ela im yesh ba kedei nefila. We said that what? That enough to go ahead and plant this year for next year. The kama kedei nefila. Rav Ami Amar Rabbi Yochanan, arboya soyin lekor. 4 saw in an area that would produce a core. That's the amount, right, for next year. Rav Ami Dilayama, Rav Ami himself says, Shmoina soyin lekor. No, you need 8 saw, double the amount. Amala leyahu sabal of chamba berei de rabba ravua. I'll explain to you, right? B'shani de Rabbi Yochanan have shmeina ara. The years of Rabbi Yochanan, the land was more fertile, and therefore 4 saws could produce a core. B'shani de Rabbi Ami have chisha ara got less, and you needed 8 saw to produce a core. Tanan Hasan. Haruach shepizra es ha'armin. Now you have leket. Leket's in the field, and the aniyim would take leket. What happened is that now the wind came and it spread sheaves over the leket. So now haruach shepizra es ha'armin and spread over the leket. And you want to know how much to give the aniyim. You want to know at the bottom how much to give the aniyim. So aimdim we evaluate. I saw kama leket ruyulasais. How much could this field produce? For nice laniyim, you give that to the aniyim. Nice laniyim kedei nefila. You give to the aniyim, and this is why we're bringing this is kedei nefila. That you don't have to estimate. You just go ahead and see. You'll see based upon next tomorrow. There's no estimate. Kedei nefila. The common kedei nefila. Kiyasser of Dimi, when Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar Rav Elazar, Vitem Rabbi Yochanan, Aboya Kavim Lakor, like we said. So just give 4 Kavim Lakor. That's the amount that we had in previous. That's why we brought this in. Boy Rav Yirmiyah, Lakor Zera or Lakor Tfua. When we say a core, doesn't mean a core of planted seeds or producing a field? A core, Rashi says, L'kur zera. What does L'kur zera mean? L'sada shezaru by core. You planted a core, or does it mean a sada that produced a core? Right. And then in Imtim Saloimar, if you're going to say if that what, it's a sada that produced the core, L'mapolis yad and L'mapolis shvarim. And now, in other words, if it's a core that goes to plant that you plant a core, is it planted by hand or planted by animals? You can have more core planted by animals. Let's say Rashi brings, you had a thing in the back and the animal pulled it and the holes were in. You can have much more than a person throwing it. So Tashma, the Chias Ravin, Amrav Avo, Amrav Alaza, the Imilo Amrav Yochanan, Arba Kavim Lakur Zera. 4 kav of 4 kavim Lakur Zera, 4 kavim of leket per Kur Zera. Vadayanti Boylach, the Polish Yad and Polish Shvarim. So good. It's not producing a core, guys. It's planted a core, right? It's not producing a core, it's planted a core. Yet you didn't burn Poishit. Does it mean using your hand or using animals? On that, the Gemara says what? It means la teku. That remain teku, it means in a ba'id la yeshita. Okay, so guys, anyone who's going to be in my shir tonight, I'm asking to leave because I'd like to say over the people who won't be there, the things I'm going to speak out tonight on Shavuos. At least the one good thing, okay? So the people who are going to be there tonight, please leave right now. And Be'ez Hashem, you'll hear it over again tonight, okay?
Just a reminder, if Rabbi could just send the
I'm going to take a picture and send it to you. I'm going to send it to you right now. Let me just put it on hold. This is an anthology of things that the main site I heard from my son Yehonason, and I added on different things. A picture is of different things, but I think it's a tremendous message for Shavuos. So the Gemara in Yuma says, Omer Rab Yehuda Amar Shmuel, B'fnei man lo nimshecha malchus beis Shaul. Why wasn't the malchus beis Shaul continue? Why did it not continue? There was no skeletons in his closet. There wasn't any shum doifi. There wasn't everything. He was nothing to squeaky clean, as I say, right? Shaul was squeaky clean. Masha'en came David, right? Says David. This is Rashi's lashon. Mishpacha. There's no doif of his mishpacha. V'yizgoyu ha-malachim hayotzim izaroi, and the malachim that came from him were best mentioned. Aval David mirusam aviyasa. David came from Musam Aviyah. David had a skeleton in his closet. He had a woman who was questionable whether she was allowed to come to Kal Hashem, and that stayed with him very much throughout his life. And so the question is, wouldn't you think that Shaul is more proper? After all, he was a thoroughbred. He was a pedigree, right? In other words, he was squeaky clean. So why for Malchus was that a mile that David came from what? From Rus? I'm going to ask 4 questions, guys. That's question number 1. Question number 2. In Shulchan Aruch Chaim Siman Tov Tzadik Dalet says the Magen Avram, quoting a Zohar, the reason that it says Chasidim Rishonim would stay up the whole night on Shavuos, and now it's the minig of all loimdim to do it, because Hashem had to come wake Klal Yisrael b'shas Matan Torah. Now let me ask you a question. You mean to tell me among hundreds of thousands of people there wasn't one insomniac? he had to wake up everybody. I mean, there was no person who had to get up and go. I mean, it's a pella. Everyone was sleeping. It's a great kasha. It's a great kasha. Third, this is from the Shemei Shmuel, the son of the Shachat Shava. He said that each one of the Umas Olam were tested. They were tested. Where was the test of Esav? You want the Torah? What does it say in your Torah? Like Sirtzach. Nah, we got to murder. Yishmael, what does it say? Like Signite. No, we got to steal. Where do we find good Nasav and Nishma? But where was the test? Where was the test? Says the Shemei Shmuel. You know what the test was? Whether they would go up the mountain or not. The Shlosh Yemei Hagbola, we stay away from the mountain. You can't go up the mountain. That was the test. In other words, mashma, they would want to go up the mountain. That doesn't seem like a great test to me. A desire to go up a mountain, right? It's momentarily. It's not even a test for a lifetime. It's just for that Shas Matan Torah. Like, what was the big test that they didn't want to go up the mountain? That was the third question. And the fourth question is that the Gemara in Shabbos tells us that Boaz sees this girl in the field. He asked, "Who is this girl?" Very big Gemara is Boaz, this old man checking out the women, like what's going on over here. So he goes, no, he noticed that the tznius that she was. If it was standing, she stood up. If it was on the ground, she didn't bend over, she sat down. If it was 3 stalks, she only took 2, because the din halachah is only 2, not 3. And he said, that's the girl for me. That's Malchus. Let me tell you, I know a lot of Beis Yaakov girls in the world with tremendous struis. I know a lot of Beis Yaakov girls in the world who are balas halacha. What did he see? Right? What did he see? What did he see that said, this is the one? So 4 questions, right? First question is shol. Second question is sleeping by Matan Torah. Third question is what was the big nisayon going up the mountain? And the fourth question was what was by going on by Rus. Okay, I'm not going to. I'm going to give much over more tonight, but I'll get to base to the core. Rabbi Yonason David Zolzain Gesund Stark is the Rosh Hashiva Pachad Yitzchak in Eretz Yisrael. He was Rav Hutner's son-in-law, and he's the Rosh Hashiva of Chaim Berlin. He's the Rosh Hashiva. He's the man. He lives next door to Yehonason, and obviously have a very close relationship. And he gives these mamorim, and Yehonason goes to them, and he said something very, very, very special, a big side. He said the people b'shas Matan Torah, they were, think about it, the Madreg of Matan Torah fellas, 3 Shleishim Agbola, staying 3 days away, leaving Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf. These guys were building up to their level of godless was unbelievable. They went to sleep. And in this sleep, they were experiencing Matan Torah. It was the day before, the night before, the next day. They were experiencing in their sleep Matan Torah. And you know what they thought? They thought that was Kabbalah Satorah. They thought Kabbalah Satorah has to be in the spiritual, non-physical state. And therefore, they wanted to remain that way. Therefore, they didn't wake up. They wanted to stay asleep because they felt that was Matan Torah. And Hashem woke them up. Because why? Because Hashem was showing him, that's not the Torah I'm giving you. The Torah I'm giving you is a Torah that is in a physical world. The Torah I'm giving you must be experienced in the physical. The Torah I'm giving you is not, the Torah I'm giving you is not what? It's not for the just spiritual realm. And that would explain why there was no insomniacs. That's why everyone was sleeping. Everyone was experiencing the same high experience that Hashem put them in. And Hashem is waking them up and telling them that what? That's not the place. Har Sinai, guys, was the ultimate makom of ruchnius in the history of the world. Think about it. What does the pasuk say? Vayered Hashem al Sinai al Rosh Hahar. Hashem himself came down. That's the most. There can't be in the history of the world. There couldn't have been a more spiritual place than Har Sinai. It's not possible. Hashem himself came down. There was no stronger manifestation than that, and therefore we understand why. We understand why they didn't want to go. We understand why, in fact, that what they want to wake up. So that takes care of insomnia. It also explains the Shemei Shmuel. What was then saying they wanted to go up the mountain? Because the desire to go up the mountain was to experience in what? That physical that spiritual manifestation, that place where it doesn't exist. It existed only for that moment. That was a tremendous desire for Klal Yisrael. If they felt that they wanted to experience it, thinking that this is what we want, and the answer is no. That's not what Hashem wanted. Hashem wanted it should be in the physical realm. That's where it's supposed to be, right? In the physical realm. What did Boaz say in Rus? So this is Yohanneson's Torah. Yohanneson said there's two emes in the world. There's 2 emeses. One is Bechira. Bechira, your Bechira is totally emes, fellas. You choose, whatever you choose, right, is emes. You made it. You made the decision. Torah is the ultimate emes. In order to be secure, people make decisions for their security. We hang around with people we like, with people who we stay away from people we don't like, people who we're uncomfortable with, places that we're uncomfortable. We want a security. We don't want to go away to a place and not be comfortable. Hey, listen, I like my Dalet Amis. I feel good here, you know? That's the decision we make. We want that security. If one has the security of Torah, then the other one doesn't exist. Because if you have Torah with you, you're secure wherever you go. It doesn't make a difference. You are secure wherever you go. What's a princess? She lives in a palace. She dresses impeccably well. She eats the best foods. She's pampered. Everything. She has everything. That's a princess. That's not the princess Hashem wants. Hashem wants a princess that can go with schmutz, with aniyim, in a field, and still be a princess. That's what he wants. Rus came from Moab. This is Rav Moshe Shapiro. Moab is gematria 49. 49 symbolizes the 49 levels of Tumah. Moab had descended to the lowest level of Tumah, fellas. V'haraya, that's where Rus came from. Arpa, the night that she separated from Nami, the Gemara in, I think it's Membeis or Membeis, I think, in Saita, says she was with multiple men. Goliath was she got pregnant with Goliath. They don't even know who the father was that evening. You know that David killed his cousin Lenny. Goliath was his cousin. Arpa and Rus were sisters. He killed him. And she was so degenerate. You see what Moab was. Who comes from this pristine girl? Rus, from the lousiest place. David, from Rus, from this place. Mamish, the Hashem wants, that's what Hashem wants. He wants that a princess in this to be secure wherever you are, no matter what. Here she is. That's what Boaz saw. A princess, the way she acted, the way she looked, the way she dressed. Where? Not in a palace, in a schmutzadika field, picking up who knows what, among what kind of people. That's what Hashem wanted. That's the answer to the question. That's the answer to the question of why Rus was chosen. The final question is why Shaul? It's a double pashut now. It's a double pashut. Shaul was he was higher than everybody. Not because he was a Balgaiva, but innately that's where he was. He wasn't among the people. He was above. And he was an insecure person because he was affected by Doeg Adoimi. So he was the antithesis of what he should have been. On the outside, a Gehoib and a mensch, but when it came to security and following the Ratzon of Hashem, he listened to Doeg and he didn't wait for Shmuel to come and bring the Karbonis. And he listened to Doeg and he left Agag alive. That's the classic insecurity. A person who can't make a decision, right? That's a classic. This is, again, it's a combination of a lot of people. This is mine stuff. So I think it's a very tremendous thing to see that what Torah really is, and therefore Shaul's malchus was not nimsheches. It was limited. It was limited. It was limited to what he was. But a malchus that can be anywhere, be it in the palace, be it in the field, be it in the battlefield, be it in the garbage dump, be it David, who we can speak out David's the way his lineage and the way he acted and the way he treated by his brothers, a mamzer, the way he was. That's the malchus of Hashem. And now, so that answered those 4 questions. And I'd like to add on a little more. If the Torah was given in a physical realm, we can understand a few Gemaras. We have the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Peiches Amid Beis. The Gemara speaks there about Moshe going up to get the Torah. And he has this whole conversation with the Malachim. The Malachim wanted to keep him in Shemayim. And Hashem said, give him an answer. He says, grab onto my kisei cover and give him an answer. And Moshe gives him an answer. What's the fight about? The Malachim view Torah totally in the spiritual realm. And Moshe is saying, no. Moshe told him, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Torah is a physical manifestation. And therefore, that was the whole vikuach, the whole fight between Moshe and the Malachim was a fight of what exactly Torah is. The Gemara in Pesachim, the Tanya, guys, this is beautiful. Rabbi Lezer Omer, this is your Highness sons. Ein leila adam biyantif, ela oichel v'shaisa oyoshev v'shayna. It says by Yontif. Is it totally? Rabbi Lezer says it's either or. You're either totally for Hashem or totally for yourself. You're either eating, drinking, or you're learning. Rabbi Yeshua says, Chalkeyu, you divide it. Chetzev la'achila u'shtiya, v'chetzev l'beis medrash. He divides it. Amar Rabbi Lezer, hakol moedim ba'atzeres d'be'inin nami lachem. Rabbi Lezer's moeda that you also need lachem. My timer, Yom shenitnu ba Torah. It was the day the Torah was given. What's the connection? The day the Torah was given, the Torah is given in a physical world. The Atzeres, you would think the opposite. You would think Kabbalah Torah, right? No, Hashem wants the Torah in the physical world. Everyone's mighty, you got to eat on Atzeres. Beautiful riot to the site of Rabbi Yonason. I'd like to suggest, the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yosef b'yomid Sarta, Rabbi Yosef on Atzeres, Amar, Avdali Igla Tilsa, make for me a third calf. Igla Tilsa is a question of whether it's a third of its growth, a third born. It's the best veal in the world. Amar, he said, Eloi ha yuma the kagarim kama Yosef b'shuka. If not for this day, how many Yosefs would there be in the street? So I'm asking you, if that's the case, why is he learning the whole day? If what makes you special, guys, is what? Is the learning, so why are you eating? Elama, no. Rabbi Yosef understood that the Torah was given for the physical. And Mela, he made the best Igla Tilsa, something really uniquely special, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be given in that way. My son Yitzi added beautifully, he quoted from a sefer, Sifsei Chaim, from a Chaim Freelander, that when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemayim, so the Malachim wanted to kill him. So you know what happened? His turned. The Medrash says, Medrash Rabbah says, his face turned to the face of Avram Avinu. When the Malachim came down, Avram Avinu took them in. What did he give them? He gave them each tongue sandwich with chardal. He mamish treated them like $1 million. And now he's turned Moshe Rabbeinu's face to Avram. He says, "You're not embarrassed? You want to kill him? You want to kill him?" Avram Avinu, the Torah was given, says to Moshe in the schus of Avram. Avram understood the physical. Avram understood there's tongue, and Avram understood there's chardal, and Avram was makar of people to Torah by opening his tent to everybody, because Torah is a physical manifestation. We're called Adam, says Rav Friedland. We're not called Neshama. We're called Adam, because it's our job to go ahead and take our Adama, our Adam, our physical guf, and elevate it to the Torah that Hashem gave us to allow us to go ahead and attain that. And that's what Mount Torah is about. That's what Mount Torah is about. I thought it was a very, we get a thumbs up? Great, no? Good, great. I thought it was...
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Rabbi, be ma'ayin in the beer halacha and the Mishnah Berurah Hilchos Shavuos about this Kama Yosef B'Shuka.
Yeah.
He has another cheshbon about that. Very nice cheshbon.
Hey, look at that. Look at that. Where are you, Jackson? Where are you?
Waterbury.
Waterbury.
What are you doing there?
Waterbury.